today is the day. We have opened up enrollment for the Summer Renegade Accelerator program. This opportunity is for female leaders, executives, founders who are looking to 10x the way they think and execute. The program is equal parts education, collaboration, and accountability. It's all virtual, but it's live, interactive, real-time learning. And the curriculum includes everything from building your personal brand online to public speaking, podcasting, publishing, productizing your intellectual property, and even marketing partnerships. We also focus on wealth creation. My goal is to help you create a healthier relationship with both time and money. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com and you will find a video of Renegade grads who explain their experience, share what they've learned, and share their actual results. All of the information is on renegadeaccelerator.com. And we are in the early decision deadline timeframe. So tuition is discounted for a short period of time. We do have limited seats, and there has been a wait list. So head to renegadeaccelerator.com and fill out the application if you're interested. And if you're not sure, just sign up for our emails. We will take you through a process that helps you determine whether or not the program is the right fit for you. The constant feedback I'm hearing from Renegade grads is that they join the program for the curriculum, for the education, for the mindset shift, for the tangible, tactical results. However, they don't realize what they're also getting is a lifelong community that is a mosaic of like-minded, like-hearted women who just continue to accelerate each other way beyond the program. And that is because when you graduate from the Renegade Accelerator, you're invited into the Renegade Collective. This is our alumni network, and we have ongoing programming. We have the ability to connect on a daily basis, network, help each other, and it's pure magic. So if this sounds interesting to you, head to renegadeaccelerator.com. And you can always reach out to me as well if you have questions. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. We do have limited seats, so definitely act soon if you want to take advantage of the early decision deadline. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com.
Practice whatever technique that is. Use whatever tool you develop for that practice until it becomes ingrained, until it becomes second nature. And then you don't need the technique or the tool anymore because now it's yours. Any technique in the end also needs to be let go of because a technique keeps you locked in a pattern. And it's like, you use the techniques until you acquire whatever you need to acquire, and then you need to let them go and just trust that you have it.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
My friend Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, is on the show today, and she is one of my favorite humans. For more than 20 years, Shannon has dedicated her life to evolving and innovating her father's legacy, to running the companies, to running the foundation. And one of the things we talk about is how she has been able to study and apply his philosophy, but add her own perspective to it. There's no better translator of Bruce Lee's teachings than Shannon, and she brings it down to earth. In her recent book called Be Water, My Friend, she's able to inject her own journey and her own point of view into what she's learned from her father. And it's equal parts memoir and kind of self-help. But she just brings his teachings to life. She brings them to a tangible, kind of accessible place where we can learn how we can apply them on the daily. Shannon also shares a bit about the work that she's done with her own identity in the midst of being Bruce Lee's daughter, and how she's ready to, do things in addition to what she's always done and really own her own voice. This book is one of the first steps in that direction. Our conversation is kind of like listening to some old friends just catch up. It's wide-ranging. We talk about being present. We talk about motherhood. And we talk about just our journeys as human beings who are striving to be a better version of ourselves. I encourage you to check out Shannon's new book titled Be Water, My Friend. It's an incredible resource as well as a really good read. And without further ado, here is Shannon Lee. Shannon, welcome back to the Why Not Now show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for asking me to come back.
Yeah, I know. And we have a lot to talk about from the first episode that you were on until now. There's been a lot that's transpired. So in the spirit of Why Not Now, let's hop in. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now? We'll dissect that day, minute, hour, season, and really kind of understand how you navigated from idea to action.
Well, I would say my why not now is that I am right now working on creating my own website for just me. I mean, I'm sure some Bruce Lee will sneak in there, but because it is intricately tied to me. But I wanted to create a place that was just for myself, to express myself and to be able to put things that intrigue me, that I want to share, that come directly from me out into the world. And this is just happening. I guess I started working on it or toying with the idea of it toward the end of last year. And now I'm in the process.
You're in it. Oh, wow. And there's such significance for you to do that. Just, I imagine energetically, to have an independent place, I guess you would say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I have dedicated the last 21 years of my life to running all of the Bruce Lee stuff, which I still do, and have had to work through sort of my own identity in the midst of all of that. And finally, it only took 21 years. I finally feel ready, I think, to do something in addition to what I'm doing. That's all my own. And I think that there's so many things happening right now that are conspiring in me to work in this direction, which are, that my book came out last year. My daughter, who is my only child, is getting ready to go off to college in just a few months, actually. So there's big transition. There's big things opening up. And I've been doing, in addition to this, a lot of work on myself.
Amazing. I was just thinking, about one of your dad's quotes. I'm not going to remember exactly, but just about taking what's useful and
research your own experience, add what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is essentially your own.
Thank you. And that is exactly what you're doing. I mean, it probably feels like you're manifesting that into the physical world, which is so cool. So this site, this platform for you, what are some of the things you're excited about diving into, whether it's content or focus points or conversations? Like, what are you super passionate about right now?
I'm really passionate. I don't know how to put this. I'm sort of going to stumble around a little bit, but I'm really passionate about my own experience in becoming more whole, becoming more centered, becoming more present. It's been quite a process for me throughout my whole life and will continue throughout the rest of my life. And the writing of the book was a big part of it because for anyone who doesn't know about it, it's sort of a self-help book, but it's like self-help meets memoir, meets biography in a way. So, but the idea was to express my father's philosophies in useful, tangible, personal, real world ways that could be helpful because they've been helpful to me and they can be helpful to others. And so part of this site is for me to be able to put more of that type of content out. And part of it is also just for me to put more of my own stuff that I do out in the world out, right? So that can be producing projects, writing more books, contributing, maybe even putting out some of my poetry. Who knows? That will take a lot of courage, but
that's exciting. It's been fascinating just to see how you've, over the years, carried on and also innovated your father's legacy while also, like you said, having your own experience and juggling those two things. So that's what's really cool about the book is we have a bit of a blend here where, yes. What a great, tool to kind of even pivot into that more and more.
Yeah, I mean, the book is a really nice transition piece in that way. And I think that for me in writing it, which I did over the course of, including the editing process and then the publishing time and all that, it was a couple years. So the book is part my father. It's a lot my father's words. It's sort of my view on my father's philosophy, right? And so it's a lot him, but then it's also my perspective, right? So it's a nice blend of the two of us. But it's definitely me putting myself out there in terms of the expression of that. Mm-hmm. And so it was a really beautiful tool and transitional piece for me to sort of like find my own voice and still sort of have the safe harbor of what I already know.
That's a really cool way to describe it. And kind of a, like you said, kind of safe, a little bit of a cushion there. And reading it, having known you for some time, I'm learning things and it's really cool to hear your perspective more and get to know Shannon more, and so that's exciting. What gets you out of bed lately? What brings you positive energy?
I more and more am just so, this is going to sound kind of like or woo-woo or who knows, but I'm just so into life. I'm just so into my own practice, my own spiritual practice, trying to figure out what I can do with a day, trying to bump up against myself constantly throughout the day and notice that and go, okay, that's happening. Wow. All right. Let's, and more and more I'm able to release like the judgment of it, which is one of the things I talk about in the book, because we stop ourselves so much because we are such harsh judges of ourselves, And so it's like, well, when you release that and you just take everything on as an experiment and as a process, then it becomes, this ongoing journey, if you will. And you can go like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. Or, wow, I really messed that up. And then you can say, oh, how can I do that better? How can I be more myself in this moment? Or how can I ...
Ooh, that's juicy.
And to your, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but and to your question of why not now, like, I feel like this is a question that is, I'm sort of asking myself every day, because like so much of my practice is attempting to just really be present and in present response to the moment, in addition to my to-do list and all the things that but just like how to blend these things and have a balance. And some days I triumph and some days I fail miserably.
Same. And I love how you put that, trying to figure out what I can do with a day. And I can feel your sentiment behind that, not meaning just productivity and checking boxes, but it almost sounds like if a day were Play-Doh and you could play with it, like, what could you do with a day? I don't know. It just opens up a whole new way of thinking.
I used to be, I'm not officially a morning person. Like when I wake up in the morning, it takes a minute for me to be like, but more and more when I wake up in the morning, after I kind of get through that, I'm so much less tired, like on a fatigued, kind of like, oh, I'm exhausted. Oh, life is so busy. Oh, I've got so much to do today. Like that mentality, that weight is lifted a bit as I go through this process of trying to figure out, as I said, as you said, and reflected back, like, well, what can I do with the day? And how do I feel into myself and see where I'm at? And then I look at my calendar and I go, okay, well, I have these meetings. And then in between those spaces, it's like the space in between a breath or the space in between thoughts, but longer, right? It's like, what can I do in those spaces that really nourishes my soul and makes me feel alive and is something that I really want and am working toward, or some fun or some rest, whatever seems to be required in the moment.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm hopping in here to tell you about a new discovery of mine. I'm in love, and let me tell you, I've fallen hard. We all like our caffeine in the morning. I look forward to that first, second, and fifth cup of coffee in the morning, but now I exclusively drink super coffee. I'm such a fan that I actually invested in the company, the team, and their culture. The love for what I do every day makes me jump out of bed in the morning, but Super Coffee truly fuels that fire. It's fueled with positive energy, from the ingredients they use to their brand promise. Super Coffee removes the negatives like sugar and adds the positives like MCT oil and protein so that you can maximize your day. I have an embarrassing secret. I used to be addicted to diet soda. I'd roll out of bed and pop open a can before my eyes were even fully open. I had never been a huge coffee drinker, but when I gave up diet soda on July 12th, 2015, yes, the moment deserves an anniversary. It was a big deal. I needed another caffeine source at that point. For me, that meant coffee with lots of artificial sweeteners, with crazy ingredients I can't pronounce that made me crash by 2 p.m. or so. Well, not anymore. Super Coffee is different. As I mentioned, there's no added sugar, and some of the flavors I love have 10 grams of plant protein. Now, I'm not a big meat eater, so this really helps, and they've just added a few new flavors to their plant-based offering, like French vanilla and sweet cream. They only use ingredients that are great tasting, great for you, and sustain you for the long haul. Nothing shady, only positives. The taste is delish, I can tell you. Take it from someone who needs that extra flavor to enjoy the taste of coffee. And Super Coffee also comes in ground coffee, Keurig pods, creamers, and more on their website, drinksupercoffee.com. One of the things my team and I love most is that on drinksupercoffee.com, you can shop Super Coffee's wide variety of products based on your dietary needs, including gluten-free, plant-based, Whole30, keto, or even vegan, right there on their website. There's something for everyone. While you're on the site, go ahead and stock up because Super Coffee is hooking up Why Not Now listeners with a 25% discount. Head to supercoffee.com and use the code Why Not Now for your 25% discount on all products. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works again for all products. Just use Why Not Now as your code, all one word. There are no restrictions. I'm an investor in Super Coffee because the founders truly do walk the talk. Yes, their coffee provides positive energy, but so does their company culture. Their founders are three brothers who share a work hard and be nice to people mentality, and they spread that throughout their culture at Super Coffee. They know the importance of having diverse perspectives at the leadership level, and you know I'm a fan of elevating women in leadership. In fact, one of my Renegade Accelerator grads, Jamie Christ, is one of those women. So once that positive energy arrives on your doorstep, hit me up on social at Amy Jo Martin and show me what flavors and products you went with. And bonus points if you try one of their seasonal blends. The company is growing quickly, and you'll probably start noticing Super Coffee in your local Walmart, Target, or Costco. They are now in over 30,000 retailers nationwide. To take advantage of your exclusive 25% discount, head to drinksupercoffee.com and enter Why Not Now at checkout. That's Why Not Now, all one word. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works for all products, no restrictions. How do you listen and tune in to identify what's needed, whether that's your intuition or just whatever you're feeling? I know that I go in and out of waves of feeling like I'm feeling fairly tuned in, and then I could go for a long time where I'm just not really listening. But then you can see the contrast when you are and you aren't, and you're like, whoa, I forgot. There's a much bigger dimension to all of this when I actually. So how do you do that? How do you listen?
Well, first, let me say, I really applaud you because having that ability to go like, oh, I've been tuned out or I've been shut down, and then realizing that that's happened and then noticing the difference is such a huge step. Like so many people, don't have that level of awareness. So fostering that and continuing to just notice it and continuing to research that for yourself is part of the process, and having the right tools and all of that. But to answer your question, what I would say is that for me, more and more, what I'm noticing is my body is a really great indicator. So I think that we rely so much on our minds, right? Like, oh, I'm feeling inspired, or I had this moment, or I feel good mentally right now, right? And so now I'm able to XYZ. And for me, intuition is definitely a body feeling, right? Like that gut instinct, that impulse, right? It comes through your body. And what I've noticed for myself is when I am getting a little bogged down, getting a little stuck, getting a little lost, my body can feel it. And my body goes like, wow, you've really been sitting on your ass for a long time. Now your ass kind of hurts, or it's feeling the spread. Like, maybe you ought to get up and move around a little bit, or I'll be watching a TV show and I'm distracted and I'm restless. And I'm like, but I'm resting right now. And it's like, well, but are you resting in the best way for what your body is sort of indicating to you. Like you're trying to like, this is my tune out time, but your body's saying, I don't want to tune out right now. Let's pick something else up, or let's, even if it's just like, let's throw a load of laundry in the washing machine. Why don't we? You know what I mean? Like that's a mundane but example, but it's just something where it's like, if you feel that sense in your body, a little bit of dissatisfaction with the moment, and a little bit of stiffness or rigidity, or that to me is usually a signal that I'm actually wanting something else and to go and find it. And not in a crazy way. It can just be like, oh, you're starting to get bogged down with like, you're ignoring a number of things and you're ignoring yourself. So stop doing that.
It's a great point that we tend to kind of analyze where we are mentally, but physiologically and body intelligence is not really something that we learn to listen to growing up very much, right? It's
totally.
It is such a great indicator and tool, just partner that has our best interests in mind at all times.
Sometimes I'm just standing there and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. And then I'll kind of just tune in and I'm like, gosh, I'm cold. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go stand outside, get some sunshine, get some fresh air. Like it can be as simple as that. But I can't stress enough how nurturing something like that is. Like those little moments when you listen and tune in, they're very nurturing, and they give you the energy to then do the other things that you need to do.
So true. So true. I've been thinking a lot about how I'm trying to practice being able to hold two conflicting thoughts in my mind at once, and trying to just be better about that practice. I just was thinking about like when I do that, sometimes it's uncomfortable, and talk about body intelligence where you're just almost wanting to get out of that moment. Yeah. I don't know. It's just been an interesting thing where I feel like a lot of times innovation comes from mixing things that don't usually mix, whether it's someone reporting on something political or cultural or whatever. It's just an interesting practice.
Yeah, I think that it's a big and really great practice in terms of just allowing, accepting what is, and allowing that there are multiple experiences and realities and thoughts and ideas happening all at once, right? So, especially in the world we live in where there's just so much chaos happening right now. And, you have to be able to hold that, and you have to be able to hold your own experience and keep your own energy going. And I think that more and more, if you can think of conflicting thoughts as actually not conflicting, as actually complementary to one another in some way, that can be really helpful.
I love that. Writing that down. I think about like with your father and the philosophy and how disciplined he was, yet how fluid. And in a way, like the point you just made, it's not conflicting as much as it is complementary to be able to be both of those things. Like just his writings from, and obviously he started writing very, very young, and the discipline, yet the fluidity. Like, how do you practice that? You know what I mean? Like, that's just like...
Well, oftentimes you need discipline in order to achieve fluidity, right? Because if you notice in yourself that you are not fluid in some way, right? Whatever way that is, and you say to yourself, well, I'd really like to be more fluid or more present or more whatever it is, right? I'd really like it if I could do that. Then you need to, just like a martial artist who needs to learn technique, like you need to practice it. And in order to practice it, you need consistency. And in order to have consistency, you need discipline. So, and what you're going for is to practice whatever technique that is, use whatever tool you develop for that practice until it becomes ingrained, until it becomes second nature. And then you don't need the technique or the tool anymore because now it's yours. It's like there are many masters who have said this over the centuries, the millennia, and I believe the Buddha said this. It's like any technique in the end also needs to be let go of, because a technique keeps you locked in a pattern. And it's like, you use the techniques until you acquire whatever you need to acquire, and then you need to let them go and just trust that you have it,
Ooh, that's so cool. And I imagine being open to how it can evolve too, because otherwise there may be, stagnation, or something might be antiquated that needs to be innovated, or
Totally. And that's all part of being present, right? So it's like, I've made this mistake a million times, and I'm sure you have too, where it's like you learn something, or you have like an epiphany, you really work to incorporate it. And then you think like, I got this, like, I know, like, I got this down, this is amazing. And then you kind of like fall asleep in it. And then, and then lo and behold, you discover like, oh, there's like 6,000 more layers to this thing. Like, I got this layer, but now I'm about to learn the next layer. And then and then you start to have a little humility about how many layers there actually are. And that humility leads you to remaining present and vigilant to your experience.
That's so true. It's just when we think we've mastered something, we realize we have barely scratched the surface.
Right.
Yeah. What's one thing you find yourself learning over and over lately?
I think that one of the things I'm working on, just as I said, like in deeper and deeper layers, is letting go of the patterning that I hold on to, the patterning of my thinking, patterning of my habits. Just like I said, just when I think like, oh, wow, I really get this now, and I've really been doing well, I find more residue in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, there's still more, and it's something that I'm continually working on, in the sense that I'm just trying to stay really present with whatever comes up and have tons of compassion, like don't judge myself harshly, and just go like, oh, well, that's still there. Okay. And then grab for some tools. And the tool can be even as simple as just remembering not to judge myself. Like, do you know what I mean? And going, and then, this quote of my father's that we brought up: research your own experience, accept what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is essentially your own, is really like an amazing formula and an amazing process. Mm-hmm. So it's like anything like that, where it's like, okay, I notice something that comes up in me, some more leftover residual stuff with like not wanting to take care of my body, like there's still more, endlessly there's more. And so step one, research that, like notice it, see it, feel it, go like, well, where is that coming from? What is the emotion attached to that? What are the thoughts attached to that? What is the patterning or the habitual stuff attached to that? Is it self-worth issues? Is it, what is it? Like, let's feel around in there. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to try some things. Okay, well, this seems useful. When I'm feeling that, I'm just going to, every time I feel that, I'm just going to get up and like stretch a little bit, okay, that works. Or every time I do that, I'm going to, whatever, walk around the block. Well, I never do that. So that's not working. I reject that. And then just adding what's essentially my own it's sort of a circle, because adding what's my own is based on the research of my experience. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, what is working? How can I dig this out? How can I go further? And so, I just continue to notice in me these little like wisps of old stuff that just pops up into my brain or into my body. And I'm just really working to allow it, accept it, acknowledge that it's there, and then go like, okay, thank you. And I'm going to go, you come over here while we figure this out. And I'm just going to keep. And I guess what I would say is that is trust, building trust in myself, building trust in faith in life and the universe. Right.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. As I was listening, I was realizing how a lot of that sounds familiar. When you're meditating and a thought pops in and you're like, but I'm meditating, I shouldn't be thinking. And then all of a sudden it's like, this is not the point. Right. But some like this, you're actually pretty counter.
Just gone down the wrong rabbit hole here.
Yeah. You're thinking about, but sometimes I've heard people say like, see the thought and let it pass, like let it float. Like it's okay. That's going to happen. So I've been thinking about, ever since Lincoln was born, I haven't felt as connected just, I guess, to myself per se. But there were moments where, especially right after he's born, where I would really be tuned in and just self-aware, and intuition was nice and loud. When you get into those dry spells, what do you do to kind of recharge, reset?
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole bunch of things that I do. I meditate. I have taken a number of classes in energy healing as well. And I have energy healers that I go to who can also help me sort of like release things that I'm holding on to. Exercise is a similar sort of thing. I partake of homeopathic remedies. I have a homeopath that helps guide me. I mean, these are all because I'm talking in this realm because we're talking about a dry spell or disconnection, which is sort of like an energetic block, right? And so when I feel that, I go to those types of tools, right? But journaling can be great. Talking with someone can be great. Someone whose opinion you trust and who, or whose perspective you value, I should say. There are all sorts of different tools to help move that through, and listening to, like I've been listening recently again to some Eckhart Tolle books. I have his books. I'd read them a number of years ago, but when I listen to him, I find he carries a certain energy of like stillness and aliveness. Or if I watch a video of his, that can help just like pull me back into the present moment. So it's sort of, going outside and putting my feet on the earth or laying on the ground or going for a walk. Like there's so many different tools, and it just depends like how severe of a disconnection it is as to, or block, or how you experience it as to what I would go to for that help. Because I experience it all the time. I have days where I'm like, wow, I'll tell you, after I got the COVID vaccine, I was like, wow, I feel really like muted, and I feel really disconnected. Like, and I was sort of walking around in that for days, like technically fine, but also like, there's something weird happening here. I reached out to my homeopath, and she, I talked to her about what I was experiencing. She prescribed a remedy for me, and I took it, and then I felt better, but it's about knowing, witnessing what's going on, and then saying there's an issue here that I need to try to figure out.
Gosh, so much of your practice parallels a lot with Susie Batiste, who is a friend of mine, and I know we've talked about her before.
I think I've met Susie.
I feel like you have.
I know of her.
And maybe you guys have met, and there's a lot of similar energy, but she talks a lot about clearing energy and clearing and keeping, whether sometimes it's just making amends or having a conversation, like closing the energetic circle, that energetic loop. And I did that 2 weeks ago, had a conversation that probably should have been had 11 years ago. And it felt so good to just clear that space, because you do feel like now you have more space, just more
space and more energy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really important to clear those things up. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in this false idea that having conversations with someone is to try to get the other person to have a reaction or to understand you or but really it's for you. Mm-hmm. Right? Like however that conversation went, like you needed to have that conversation to release that for you, because you're the one who's carrying it around, right?
Yeah, that's so true. And regardless of the outcome, and it actually doesn't even really matter, right? As long as you take that step and you gain momentum, momentous, where then I'm like, ooh, what other loops do I want to close? Like, start looking around, and just because it does feel good. So
it feels good. And, we should acknowledge that it takes some courage. And the reason we don't have those conversations is because we have this story all built up in our mind and holding on about what might or might not happen. And it's holding on to that and living in that takes you out of the present moment, and living in that space is stressful. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's like releasing it, whatever the outcome is of it, finally answers the question for you. Oh, I expressed that, and now I know what the result of that is, rather than holding on to this like, well, if I don't express it, or if I do express it, maybe this, maybe that, you know what I mean? Like that's,
yeah. Absolutely. And that very thing happened where I had created a story in my head that had been looping for 11 years. And then after this conversation, realized I created that all, and
totally.
The mileage on that story.
Yeah. Well, this goes back, just a little bit to put a capper on it to what I was saying, is that I've been doing that exact same thing, which is, like, I'll give an example. I had to sit for an interview last week, and I did the interview. And as I left, I was thinking, wow, that really was not my best. That really didn't go very well. I hope they thought it was okay. I wonder if they were like, oh my God, what is she? I thought she was, better at this or whatever, And I left there and I just said, you know what? I'm going to stop making up a story about it. I'm noticing that I'm doing that. I'm feeling insecure in whatever way. And I'm just going to stop doing that. I'm just going to trust. By the way, there's nothing I can do about it. What's done is done. I gave the interview. I said what I said. And whether they liked it or didn't like it, or whether it was my best or my worst, like, it's just forward motion, staying with the present moment instead of staying back there. And I've been noticing this more and more, these thoughts in my head. Then the next day I got an email from the guy, and he was like, oh my gosh, thanks so much for the interview. It was one of our favorites of the day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, see?
Were you kind of like proud of yourself for, having already moved forward, and you knew even if he didn't say that, you would be in a better spot anyway? Like, isn't that's interesting? Yeah, we do. We are so good at it.
And it's a pattern. And like part of me wanted to, so it's like assessing what's needed in the moment. If you've been holding on to a conversation for 11 years, you probably need to have that conversation. If I want to email this guy or call this guy and say, I'm so sorry, my interview wasn't that great, or I hope it was okay. Was it okay? Like that's a conversation that probably doesn't need to be had.
Yeah. And maybe finding that within, to, have the feedback loop be enough to be yourself. Yeah, absolutely. And like,
just trust that I showed up in the best way that I possibly could in the moment, and the moment is gone now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I think about our very first conversation, and this was, an idea. This was a why not now, literally. And if you're listening, obviously not watching, I'm holding up Shannon's new book, Be Water, My Friend. And I just am so appreciative to have this this Bible that really has curated not only, the teachings of your father, but your take on them. And I just think the relevancy and what you've done to continue to innovate these thoughts and ideas and continue to keep them fluid is just a gift. And so I just thank you for following through on your why not now idea, because we are all beneficiaries now. Yeah. And I just learned so much from you every time we connect. Where's the best place for people to follow along?
I do have outlets through all the Bruce Lee stuff, right? So the Bruce Lee social media, which is all at Bruce Lee. I have my own social media on Instagram, which is at The Real Shannon Lee. I'm not the best poster on social media, so I don't want anybody to.
But you're a lot better than you. You've come a long way.
I've come a long way. I'm not very good at like being super. Anyway, I'm not on social media a lot. I sometimes don't open my own social media, my own Instagram page for days at a time. So, but it's all part of the process, which is fine. I have the Bruce Lee podcast where I'm continuing to talk about my father's philosophies and talk to guests about those philosophies. And we're just getting ready to do some more episodes for May, which is AAPI month. And I'm about to have my own website.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's probably a couple months away still, but and that is going to be leewaymedia.com.
Okay, leewaymedia.com. Okay, great. I'm excited to check it out. A portal into Shannon's creativity, and it's going to be exciting. And what a fun project, a creative expression, a digital, it's so interesting how our creative expressions can come in so many different ways. Thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom and just being here. I'm always so grateful. And everybody does need to check out the Be Water, My Friend book. And we'll be checking out your website too soon.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I've said it out loud now. Now I'm going to have
we do, right? And then next time we'll talk accountability.
Exactly. That's why whenever anybody asks me like, well, are you going to do that? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? I'm always very, very subconscious about saying yes, because I know if I say yes, then I'm accountable to myself, Yeah. So thank you, Amy, for all that you do. I think this question of why not now is a great question. It's a great thing for the big swings in life, but I think it's also a great question in the present moment, whatever the present moment is. When I'm sitting on my couch, being lazy and binge watching, and I'm having thoughts about all the things I should be doing, the question I ask myself is, well, why not do that right now? So thank you for continuing the conversation and the exploration into everyone's motivations and their experiences. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your why not now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins, and of course a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time, and until then, why not now?